Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you had a good weekend. We're working on a skeleton staff here because 5Q in Rochester had a blizzard and nobody can get out of their house. So Missy fought in, but that's the only people we have working there, so we'll need a little patience if you need anything from us today. So 5-minute money maker last week. Here's a great visual demonstration on why 50/50 makes so much sense for someone who's retired and can't wait for the markets to recover. So take a look at that. That's a good little handout to have in your back pocket. So a little bit of training today. Today, one of the things that we're going to talk about today is telling stories. And Dean sent this article in about Social Security, so I thought I would share. This is a great story. Now, when you go through the quick start, I give you 3 other Social Security stories that are actually that tell you how Social Security accidentally kills people. This is actually a story that where the person actually did die and the trouble they got into dealing with Social Security. So there's no other way to describe the latest never-ending series of Social Security horror stories that come my way. 81-year-old Dolores Cooper is being financially tortured by Social Security for Social Security's own sake. On September 19, 2018, Dolores called Social Security to tell them her husband Jimmy had died 2 days earlier. So is she doing the right thing? Yeah, she did the right thing. Social Security staffer mistakenly typed into the system that Jimmy had died not on September 17, 2018, but September 17, 2017. So, guys, do you see why when we tell the story about Social Security, this is true? These, just one digit wrong, 2017 instead of 2018, and look at, we'll see all the horrible things that happen. 1 week after Dolores' call, she received a notice from the Social Security Administration that Jim had been overpaid $22,000 and that Dolores, needed to make a repayment. What happened? The typo triggered by Social Security's computer system decided that Jimmy had been paid benefits for over a year when he was actually dead, which of course he wasn't. Dolores called Social Security the next day on September 27th after waiting 1.5 hours for somebody to come on the phone. So she waited on a hold for 1.5 hours. So guys, when we tell people dealing with Social Security, they don't have a power of attorney that works Social Security, waiting 1.5, do we see the kind of problems that can occur here? She spoke to an Eileen. Eileen found the mistake and told Dolores to take Jimmy's death certificate to Modesto, California office. Eileen said it would take up to 2 months to fix the problem, so not to worry. On October 5th, Dolores took the death certificate to Modesto office and spoke with Mike Wiley. To quote her son Kim, Mike assured my mom that he would make sure that she was corrected. In the meantime, my mom started receiving tens of thousands of dollars of Jimmy's medical bills as the incorrect. You guys see what's going to happen now? As the incorrect date of the death had been propagated in the Medicare system, and they stopped paying Jimmy's medical bills and were asking for repayment of their payments. My mom spent countless hours on the phone with Medicare and doctor hospital billing departments dealing with the issue until it was fixed finally in November. On October 2017, Social Security sent Dolores 2 notices. First stated they'd use the $17,000 of her benefits to recover part of the overpayment. So now they're taking her benefits. They're taking her benefits to cover the overpayment that did not even exist. So was it fixed? No. But that she still owed $5,307. Social Security had retroactively activated Dolores' widow's benefit to the incorrect start date, namely a year before Jimmy actually died. These widow benefits, which hadn't been paid, were Social Security said as cryptically as possible being used to cover the $17,000 of her bill. Again, a bill that she shouldn't have to pay. The second notice dated October 17th claimed that Social Security, to quote Kim, paid Dolores $24,000 for September 2017 to August 2018, but they should have only paid her $10,000. So she needed a refund $14,000. Guys, if she did not have her son to help her, what would have happened? I mean, this poor 81-year-old lady, if she didn't have somebody to take care of her, what would have happened? I mean, is this getting confusing or what? But they should have only paid $10,000, so she needed to refund $14,000 within 30 days. The notice also said the total amount of the overpayment was $8,000. So, guys, I'm confused. Are you guys confused? I'm confused. Holy crap. So in the same notice, 2 amounts were given, $14,000 and $8,000. And on the same day, another notice stated $5,000. So she got 3 different amounts that were owed. It's crazy. On November 5th, the direct deposit in Dolores' account for $8,000 on November 7th. Sent a notice stating the deposit of $8,000 should have been for $3,000. So there was an overpayment of about $5,000. After the repeated calls to find out where they send the check, Dolores sent on November 23rd a cashier's check by priority mail, according to U.S. Postal Service. On December 25th, Social Security sent a letter to Dolores that her pension was going to be withheld and future payments would be reduced until the $5,000 was repaid, even though she'd sent the check a month prior. On December 28th, Dolores sent Social Security checks, the cashier's check, via the U.S. Postal Service to the Modesto Richmond office. The check was still not processed by Social Security. On January 22nd, to quote Kim again, Dolores received two SSA or Social Security 1099s, one showing the amount at $22,000, the amount of incorrect payment calculation due to Dimmy's death being recorded incorrectly. This amount was due to an error that should have never happened, yet it is now being reported as income to Dolores. The second 1099 for Dolores shows the correct amount of payment she received for the year was $8,000, was deposited on November 5th. It also shows nonsensical numbers, including another adjustment for $32,963 and a repayment of Social Security of $36,767 or $69. So Dolores now has to struggle with how to correctly do her taxes and will potentially have to deal with the IRS explaining the incorrect 1099 showing erroneous $22,000. Today, Dolores received a notice from Social Security, had received a check of $5,300, but that she still owed $354. Yes, $354 is far better than $22,000, but there's no guarantee Social Security will ever let Dolores out of Social Security financial hell. So, guys, that's with her husband dying. What if he'd only been incapacitated and all these things were happening? So it just goes to show you what people will deal with if they don't. If incapacitation, if there was incapacitation, you're trying to deal with Social Security office. This is how much they screw things up, and now they won't talk to you. How long is it going to take to fix it? Forever. Ever. So what you're doing with your clients to make sure now again, this does not deal with power of attorney. That story did not deal with power of attorney, but it's illustrative of what can happen when you're dealing with the Social Security system. Any large organization like that, especially a large government organization, you can get into, like he said, financial hell. So how important is it and how good is it that we take care of our clients when it comes to Social Security and their power of attorney? Is that a little thing or is that a huge thing? It's a huge thing. So thanks, Dean, for sharing that story or that article. So 7 secrets of a successful cold appointment. John Pagetta is considered a guru when it comes to getting running appointments. So he has 7 things that he thinks you should do. Number 1, set expectations. Don't put the prospect in a situation where they should be surprised. How do we do that with the 5Q? Well, at the first meeting, what do we say? What's the first thing we say at the beginning of the first meeting? Would it be okay if I share with you what happens in the next hour or so? Does that set expectations and make sure the prospect is in a situation where they'll be surprised? Okay. Also, in the second meeting, in the advisorectomy meeting, do we set expectations? Yes. The reason we go through the intro and then we begin with the survivor's guide. Why do we do that? We're setting expectations that this is only about investments, or this is about a lot more than investments. So do we with our first meeting and our second meeting, and actually our third meeting, obey rule number 1? Set expectations. Don't put the prospect in a situation where they'll be surprised. Yes, we do. Have a tight, disciplined process. Do we have a tight disciplined process? I'm not whether you're following it, but how tight and disciplined is the 5Q system? It's about as tight and disciplined as you can get. It's something that's been scripted and used by over 60,000 times in the last 20 years. That's about as tight and disciplined a process you can get. And when you listen to if you listen to tapes, the funny thing is, if you listen to tapes of guys that have made $1 million a year with this system, and you would fast forward to 40 minutes in the tape, guess what? On a number 2 meeting or advisorectomy meeting or the disclosure meeting, at that second meeting, and you fast forwarded to 40 minutes, guess what you're going to find out on that tape? They're all at the same spot, Nick, right? They're all at the same spot. They're all the same. They're like machines. And so was I, like a machine. Every meeting, at 45 minutes, I knew exactly where I was going to be. At an hour and 15 minutes, I knew exactly where I was going to be. And when you listen to guys that have made over $1 million a year, that's exactly what their tapes sound like. Set a meeting agenda. Of course, we do that. Don't overwhelm the prospect with information. Do we how many spreadsheets and illustrations do we ever show a client? None. None. So we do not overwhelm them with information. Getting the why. What's our whole meeting about? What word do we use over and over and over again? The word why. Why did this happen? Why were you never told? Well, what happened here? Behave like a consultant, not a salesperson. Do we ever
Sorry, I think we lost Mike. Oh, there we go. We lost you there just for a minute, Mike, on the audio.
Oh, that's weird. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear
audio
you now.
Connection restored. That's weird. Okay, so you got to behave like a consultant, not a salesperson. So should we ever get happy when they start discovering that their advisor is screwing them, or do we act more solemn? We act solemn. That's right. We don't be happy. At the end, do we try to get them when they're trying to get us to tell them where we're going to put them because they don't like their advisor? Do we ever give them a commercial? No. So we say, well, that's not what this. Remember, this meeting is about finding out what you like and don't like. So now that I know what you don't like, guess what I'll do? I'll go and figure out a plan to address those things. And I say, hey, so our whole end of the meeting is designed to look like a consultant or a salesman person. It's designed to look like a consultant. Did you find any? Is everything you're doing now clearer than when you walked in the front door? Yes. Number two, do you want to keep doing things the way you've been doing them, or do you see some things that need to be changed? No, they need to be changed. Where do you see me fitting in? You want me hands-on, or is this more of an academic exercise? No, we'd love for you to help us. Super, then let's do this. Let's go to the front desk. We'll make an appointment for a week out. Give time for the dust to settle. Give time for you to come up with some good questions. And then we'll just move forward at your pace. How does that sound? Does that sound like a salesman, or does that sound like a consultant? That's a consultant. I always ask for the next meeting. Anybody ever leave your office without giving you a next meeting? What if they don't have their calendar? What are you going to do anyways? You make a meeting anyways. You schedule a meeting anyways. You pencil it in, right, Tom? Pencil it in. So next thing, the main topic for today is telling stories. So that first thing we start with, Social Security, is that a good story to tell people? Heck yeah. You don't have to go into detail of that, but of the news story, but you can tell that story. That's the reason I give you those other stories as well about the professor going to the ATM machine, etc. So why is storytelling so powerful? So number one is MRI scans reveal that when we read words like perfume and coffee, our primary olfactory cortex activates. The part of the brain that deals with smell activates just by reading the word perfume or coffee. The part of our brain that deals with smell activates. We've talked about it before, that can the brain tell the difference between actually, if you're practicing free throws, shooting the free throws and just doing them in your head? No, can't tell the difference. That's the power of storytelling. Number two, individuals who frequently read fiction seem to have better understanding of other people and display greater empathy. So even reading stories or hearing stories makes us makes us better at understanding the person that's sitting in front of us with empathy and understanding what they're going through and being able to read their face and everything else. Number three, When someone listens to a character-driven story, their brain immediately floods with oxytocin, a love hormone. So do we like our clients' brains when they're sitting in front of us to be flooded with oxytocin? Heck yeah. Our brain, number 4, our brain will ignore cliched words and phrases, phenomenon that scientists theorize is caused by loss of storytelling power. Number 5, the hero's journey story. There's 5 different archetypes when it comes to telling stories. The most popular is the hero's journey model. It's the foundation for half of Hollywood movies and the majority of the most watched TED Talks. So the hero's journey is where somebody is in bad straits, struggles, and then in the end is able to overcome that. Number 6, the hormone cortisol is released during the rising arc of a story, prompting a powerful emotional reaction when the listener knows the story is fiction. So even though they know it's fiction, we get a spike in cortisol or stress, which means what's so important about cortisol being pumped into your brain? What it does is it makes you remember something. Where cortisol is actually bad. Cortisol is oxytocin, that's a good thing. Cortisol is a stress hormone. So it doesn't make you feel good, but it does. Has anybody here been in like an accident in a car when everything's going, or an accident of any type where everything slows down in slow motion? Yeah, that's the cortisol. What it does is when you're under extreme stress, your brain just locks in cement whatever is going on. That's why you remember. If I said what happened to you last week, that's way more difficult to tell me what happened to you on Monday last week than it would be for you to tell me what happened to you while you were in that accident. That accident, you could tell me exactly what was going on. So cortisol helps lock in what's going on there. So why is that a good thing for us? And when we tell the storytelling, for example, about like the beneficiaries, about the gal who marries that bad guy, why is that a good thing? Because it locks in the story. It makes them remember the story. How many people remember a spreadsheet or a mathematical problem? Nobody does. But they lock in stories if the story is told really well. Storytelling is the most effective way to merge meaning and emotions. And if you think about it, the Torah, the Bible, and the Quran, are they a laundry list of how we should act is it a list of things telling us how we should run our lives? Is that what it is? What are all 3 of those books? Nothing but what? Stories, stories, stories. All of them are packed full of stories. They're not saying, okay, here's what you need to do. You need to get up in the morning. You need to do this and do that. It's told in stories, stories, stories. Why are they told in stories? Because people remember stories. See, facts tell, but stories sell. It sells people on what they need to do. So a good story has to be credible. The story has to be, teller has to be credible, and the story itself has to be credible. It needs to be simple. Leave out things that are not needed. Why do I tell you to use my story my stories from the scripts instead of telling your own stories? When you tell your own stories, guess what starts to happen? You get really excited to tell your story about this thing that happened to you. And then you start to, that's right, Nick, you start to elaborate and go on and on and on with details that really don't matter. Think about the Bible. How elaborate are the Bible stories? Are they elaborate or are they simple? Very simple. Very simple. They don't go into great detail. When Jesus goes out with the disciples on the boat to fish and then the storm comes up, it doesn't go, yeah, it was a great day and the sky was unbelievable blue and the water was calm and there was birds chirping and a slight breeze blowing. It was a wonderful day. Is that how it tells a story, or does it basically say Jesus went out with the disciples, they were going to go fishing, storm came up, the disciple panicked, and Jesus calmed the waters? Is it all that detail, or is just a simple and concise? If you go into great detail, guess what people lose? What do people lose if you go into great detail? What the story was about. So that's why I say use my story. Don't use your own stories, because my stories are simple, bare bones. You get into your stories and you can tell all sorts of things that don't need to be told, which is going to obscure or dilute the actual message. Make sense? concrete. The story should be concrete. Use tangible. Use an example instead of an abstract idea. Who, what, where, when. Give them a real hard, concrete thing to understand. Relatable. Address the audience's needs, issues, and problems. Make sure the story is about things that they're concerned with. Unexpected. Predictable stories are forgettable. Have a climax. Use metaphors, pictures, and make it memorable. Do we do that, guys? Yes, we do. Emotional. Make the story personal. Have emotional pain, discomfort, negative result. Allow people to immerse in the story. Okay, so how do these things here, do we do all those in the beneficiary story where we talk about the lady who married the guy who was abusing her mentally and physically? She then, is that story a credible story? Are there people out there like that? Have they ever heard of stories like that? People. Yeah, so that's a credible story. Do we go into great detail, or is it basically as soon as they understand that this guy is a jerk, and do we go into great detail about the stories, about all the things he did to her, or just basically describing that he's been a jerk to her both emotionally and physically? Just very, very simple. We use concrete examples and abstract idea to tell people why the beneficiary on their IRAs and 401ks is so important. Because we just tell them is a beneficiary form a tangible or an abstract idea? Beneficiary. It's intangible. It's intangible. It's not something they can really get their hands on. So we need to turn that intangible, that abstract thing, into something that's tangible or concrete. That's why we're using this story. Because if you say beneficiary, doesn't have the it's actually a technical term. We want to turn into something that actually affects people in real life. Relatable, address the audience's needs and problems. Or that's what the whole thing is about. Unexpected. Is there an unexpected twist in the beneficiary story? The whole story is about the unexpected twist, which is what? She loves her new family, her kids and her husband, but in the end, what happens? Her entire life's work goes to what? The bad guy. That's the climax. That's the unexpected that happens. Emotional, make the story personal. So what, do we do the emotional there about how horrible it was that now the money's going to what? The bad guy. What are they going to do? Is that what she meant to happen? How much of stress and strain did that cause in the family? It's all the emotional. Does that make sense? So do you see how with our stories, we're doing all of these things in our stories? Now, the other thing down here, this is how you tell a story. Vary your volume and facial expressions. So when I'm telling a story, do I just go, and then which happened is she married this husband, and he wasn't very good to her, and he treated her badly. He cheated on her. He basically was a very horrible husband. And then, so what did she do when that happens? She divorced him. That's right. She divorced him. Is that how I talk? Or is it more? So, very smart gal. Very smart gal. She went, and she got a great job, had a great husband, and he was actually a pretty good husband or at least a good boyfriend. But when she married him, guess what happened? Guess what happened? This great husband, once she married him, went off the deep end. What do you think I mean by deep end? See, that's you're using different volume and facial expressions. You're using your tone and gestures. If you saw me speaking with a client, you'd see my hands going. I look very Italian because my hands are going all over the place. I talk with my hands because it helps them figure out what's going on with the story. Vary your pace and rhythm. Do we do that? Yeah, so if you can ever take a course on storytelling, I would highly recommend you take a course in storytelling. Your closing ratio will go way up because you want to do all these things with that story. It's a higher end skill, but it's a skill worth pursuing. Characteristics of a good story: single, clear, defined theme, well-developed plot, color and vivid words and sounds, characterization, and dramatic appeal. So that's what we try to do in all of our stories. Now, why are stories so important? What's happening to people's attention spans? Going up or going down? In 2000, year 2000, the average human attention span was 2000, or it was 2000, was 12 seconds. In 2013, the average human attention span was 8 seconds. The average attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds. What do you think's happened between 2013 and 2019? Going down, down, down. So if we start throwing facts and math and tables and illustrations at them, how long are we going to keep them engaged? Not very. But are people still going to movies? Do movies still keep people's attention? Yes. Do books still keep people's attention? Yes, because they're telling stories. But if you start throwing facts at people, you start throwing things at them that require them to think, you will lose them almost immediately. That's why we try to use stories. So to fight a short attention span, we want to keep things brief and simple, make it pertain to them, stimulate their senses, describe character and settings, make sure they're participating. Who should be telling the stories, guys? If you do the 5Q system correctly, who should be telling the stories? They should, right. They should. I'm going to set it up, but then when I get to every part of the, well, for example, how could you tell Jack and Jill story and make them tell you the Jack and Jill story? Could you do that? Yes, you can make them tell you the Jack and Jill story. Yep. So, and how do you get good at those things? You practice, you practice, you practice, okay? That's how you get good at telling stories. Because you want to practice not only the story, but you want to practice what? These things, varying your volume and facial expressions, varying your tone and gestures, varying your pace and rhythm. Those are the things that you want to practice once you know the story. So here's a couple of short stories. Short stories are good too. So if you, there's a life insurance sales person who sells a ton of life insurance. Sells a ton of, not life insurance, disability insurance. And all she does is she walks in, she's got this little fluffy toy with, it's a golden goose. So she has a goose with a golden egg. And she says, you know the story of the goose, man, my brain's not working. The goose that laid the golden egg. Yes. So if you're going to insure something, this golden egg, man, that's worth a lot of money. That golden egg is worth a lot of money. Do you want to insure that, or do you want to insure the goose? So what would you rather insure? The golden egg worth a ton of money, or the goose? Which one, guys? Yeah, the goose. The goose. So what she's saying is, or having the client tell her is what? Why would you insure the goose? Because the goose keeps what? Making more eggs. Yeah, so in your life, then why would you not want to insure the golden goose? And who keeps laying those golden eggs? Who keeps that income coming in? And you just told me the reasons why the goose should be. Well, guess who in your life, who the goose is? It's you. So you see, it's a short story, but do people get it? Is that better than laying out all the statistics of people who get incapacitated and all the tables and all the facts and figures? They get this much, much more. It makes it real to them. A short story that I talk about probably once a year and people tend to forget is I told a short story when I was with clients that basically I think helped me close a ton of business. I had $3,000 in hundreds, 50s, and 10s and 20s in a cigar box. I put it on my shelf. And when we got to the point where we found out how much they were paying in fees from the unnecessary fees, if it was unnecessary insurance fees, unnecessary 12B1s, unnecessary turnover costs, I would add all of those costs up. And then I would ask them, can I show you what that means? So let's say it came up to $3,200 a year. I'd say, can I show you what that means? And they look at me weird, like, what do you, I guess, I don't know what you mean. I had $32, $3,200. I don't know what you're talking about. So then I would get up from my desk. I always put it on my shelf. So I had to actually get up and walk to the box. Why do you think I did that, guys? Got the drama. That's right, Nick, drama. So, and then I would bring the box down, I'd open it up, and I don't care how rich they were. When I opened up a cigar box and there was tons of, wads of cash in there, does that get their attention? Yeah, and I'd say, so this $3,200 is like this. It's like this. It's like me walking up to your door every year, and I'd knock on your door, and you'd answer the door and say, hi, it's me again. And then I would count out money. I would go 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000. Now, would I just say this is $3,000 and give it to them, or would I count it out just like that? 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 2,000. I'd count it out, and I'm putting it right in front of them. And I don't care how much money they had. When I start counting out $100 bills and putting it in front of them, guess what happens to their eyeballs? I have their attention. And I do it again, all the way up to $3,000. So I'm short 200 here, but it's like me walking up to your door every year and giving you this money. And because we're saving it, do you pay any tax on it? This is a saving, so would you pay any tax on it? No, this is real money right in your pocket. And at that point, you'd always get kind of a nervous laugh, and they would say, what do you think they would say at that? The nervous laugh, and guess what they'd say? So do we get to keep this? And then I would take it back and say, yes, it's yours. It's yours. Not only this year, but forever. Forever. All you need to do is make some what? Changes. That would get their attention. And at that point, see, if you just say 30, the people we're working with, do they have money? Yeah, they got money. So if I say, hey, you want an extra $3,200 a year, guess what they say? Well, sure, but it's not that big a deal. I mean, I'm doing fine right now. So what is counting out the money, telling that little story about walking up to the door and handing it to, doing that? What is that doing to them? It's turning that you'd think $3,200 is tangible. It's not. It's not tangible until what? You count it out in front of them. It makes it real. Because, if do you get the difference there between $3,200 and actually counting out and showing them the money? Is that a little difference, or is that a huge difference? Because these people will not move for some savings because they're doing okay right now. They're doing okay right now. So saving an extra $300, yeah, it'd be nice, but you know what? I'm doing okay now. I just would rather not rock the boat. I'll just go ahead and do it. Just leave it alone. I just don't want to do anything. But boy, when you count out that money, put it in front of them, and then you take it away, now what happens to them? See, now they're part of the story, aren't they? They're part of the story. And when you put it in front of them and take it away, now they feel what? They have fear of loss. That's what happens, Danielle. Now they've lost it. That's right, Nick. They've lost it, Kevin. That's right. So before, when they said, would you like to save $3,200, guess what they said? Yeah, but it's not a big thing. Did they lose it? When I said, would you like to save $3,200? No, they didn't lose it. But when I count it out in front of them and take it away, they've lost it. See how that story has a major impact on them? I would highly, highly recommend that you use this. I use it on every single client. The other thing you can use is I had a crystal ball. I bought a crystal ball, real glass. It was a nice looking crystal ball, and it was on my desk. Guess when I would use that? Guess when I use that? I use it a lot. I use it at the beginning of the FIA, right? I use it at the beginning of the FIA. And anytime somebody would start to quote facts and figures in a magazine, or somebody else had said this or that or the other thing predicting the future, guess what I'd always refer to? A crystal ball. So that's a prop. I would have a crystal ball prop, and I would have a wad of cash someplace to tell these short stories. They are powerful, powerful stories. So when you've mastered all the scripts, the motive, your daily practice with your myth, guys, you got to do that 15-minute drill. Practice the GOTS every single day. 5-minute money maker breakdowns, that's when you're going to close every client you get. So thanks for being on today, and I appreciate all that you guys do, and we'll talk to you all next Monday. Thanks, everybody.